The choice that no one expected. She was hungry enough to steal, cold enough to collapse, invisible enough that no one would notice. Then fate dropped something at her feet. A wallet. Heavy. Luxury. Stuffed with more money than she had ever seen. One step could end her suffering. One step could save her life. But the step she took instead would shake a billionaire, silence a crowd, and prove that character is richer than wealth. A girl the city forgot. The city woke up without noticing her. It always did. As dawn broke between tall buildings, Lena sat curled beneath an old bridge, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight as if she could hug warmth into her bones. The cardboard beneath her was damp from the night rain, and her thin jacket did little to protect her from the cold that crept into her skin. Her stomach twisted painfully. Hunger wasn't new, but today it felt sharper, angrier. Lena had learned that hunger had stages. First, it whispered. Then it begged. Then it screamed. This morning, it screamed. She stood slowly, dizzy from lack of food, brushing dirt from her worn dress. Her shoes had holes in the soles, and every step reminded her how far she had fallen from the life she once knew. Once, she had a home, a small apartment with peeling paint and noisy neighbors, a mother who laughed loudly and worked endlessly, nights filled with shared meals, even if they were simple, and stories told under a flickering bulb. Then her mother got sick. Hospitals came. Bills followed. Then silence. After the funeral, relatives spoke kindly, but their eyes avoided responsibility. One by one, excuses replaced promises. She's too young. We can't afford another mouth. It's only temporary. Temporary became permanent. At 16, Lena became homeless. Not because she was lazy, not because she was bad, but because the world kept moving, and she didn't have the strength to run with it. She walked now through the morning crowd, invisible among rushing feet and expensive shoes. People talked on phones, complained about traffic, sipped coffee that cost more than her daily meals, if she was lucky enough to eat. She stopped near a trash bin behind a cafe. Her hands trembled as she searched. Half a sandwich. Moldy bread. Nothing. A man came out the back door, glanced at her, and scowled. Get away from here, he snapped. She didn't argue. She never did anymore. Rain began to fall again, soft but steady, the kind that soaked slowly, mercilessly. Lena pulled her jacket tighter and moved toward the main road, hoping someone might spare change. That's when she heard the car. A low, smooth engine sound. She turned. A black luxury sedan rolled to a stop at the traffic light. It looked unreal against the gray street, clean, polished, powerful. A world far from hers. The back door opened slightly. For just a second, something slipped out. It hit the ground near the curb with a dull thud. The car pulled forward as the light turned green. Gone. Lena stared at the object. No one else noticed. She stepped closer. A wallet. Dark leather. Heavy. Expensive. Her heart began to race. She picked it up slowly, almost afraid it would disappear. Her fingers opened it, and her breath caught in her throat. Cash. More cash than she had ever held in her life. Bills stacked neatly. Credit cards. An ID card. Her mind spun. This money could change everything. Food. A room. Safety. No more begging. No more cold nights. No more fear. She looked around. People rushed past, umbrellas up, eyes down. No one was watching. For the first time in months, Lena felt something dangerous rise inside her. Hope. But hope came with a question. What kind of person do I want to be if no one is looking? She stared at the name on the ID. Daniel Rothman. She didn't know it yet, but the city did. A billionaire. A man who owned buildings she could never enter. A man whose life would never cross hers again, unless she chose it. Her hand shook harder now. Hunger screamed. Cold begged. Fear whispered. Take it. Lena closed the wallet slowly. Rain washed over her face, mixing with tears she refused to acknowledge. She took a deep breath and made a decision that would change her life forever. The road back. Lena stood there for a long moment after closing the wallet. Rain soaked her hair, ran down her face, and dripped from her sleeves. but she barely felt it. The weight in her hands felt heavier than hunger, heavier than fear. People passed her on both sides. None of them noticed the battle happening inside a homeless girl's chest. She could still turn back. No one would blame her. No one would even know. But something inside her, a quiet voice she thought the streets had killed, refused to stay silent. She tucked the wallet carefully into her jacket, close to her heart, and began to walk. The ID card gave her a place to start. An address. It wasn't nearby. It was on the other side of the city. Lena laughed softly, bitterly. Of course it was. She checked her pockets. Empty. No bus fare. No phone. No umbrella. Only a decision. She walked. The city looked different when you walked it with purpose. Buildings rose like walls. Traffic roared like rivers. And the rain seemed determined to push her back with every step. Her shoes soaked through. Blisters formed. Her legs trembled from exhaustion. Still, she walked. At one intersection, a group of teenagers noticed her. "Hey!" One of them called out, smirking. "Find something valuable?" They laughed. Lena lowered her eyes and kept moving. She had learned long ago that responding only made things worse. Hours passed. The rain stopped, but the cold remained. Her stomach cramped so badly she had to stop and lean against the wall, gasping for breath. Just a little food, her body begged. Just a little rest. She thought about the cash inside the wallet. So easy, so tempting. She pressed her hand over her jacket and whispered to herself, just a little farther. As evening approached, the streets grew cleaner. Stores became brighter. People looked more polished. She knew she was getting closer. Then she saw it, a tall building of glass and steel, guarded by two men in dark suits. The name Rothman Enterprises gleamed above the entrance. Her heart dropped. This was his world, and she did not belong in it. She hesitated across the street, suddenly very aware of how she looked. Dirty clothes, tangled hair, shaking hands. People like her didn't walk through doors like that. They were turned away. She crossed anyway. The guard spotted her immediately. "Stop right there," one said sharply, stepping forward. "You can't be here." I need to return something," Lena stammered, pulling the wallet from her jacket with both hands like an offering. The guards exchanged a glance. "Move along," the other said. "This isn't a place for her." "It belongs to Daniel Rothman," Lena said, her voice barely above a whisper. That name changed everything. The guard stiffened. One took the wallet and inspected it carefully. His expression shifted. Surprise, then doubt. "Wait here," he said shortly. Lena stood frozen as he disappeared inside. People passed by, staring, some with curiosity, some with disgust. Minutes felt like hours. Her legs shook, her vision blurred. She hadn't eaten all day. She wondered if she'd made a mistake. Then the glass doors opened, and Amon stepped out, tall, confident, expensively dressed. His eyes locked onto the wallet in the guard's hands. Then they moved to her, and for the first time since she became homeless. Someone looked at Lena like she was actually there. Daniel Rothman walked toward her slowly. "Is it true?" he asked. "You found this?" Lena nodded, unable to speak. He studied her for a moment, her soaked clothes, her hollow cheeks, her trembling hands. Something unreadable crossed his face. "Come inside," he said. The guards hesitated. "She's with me," Daniel added firmly. The doors opened, and as Lena stepped into warmth and light, she had no idea that the next few minutes would rewrite both their lives. The test of truth. The warmth hit Lena first, not just from the heated air inside the building, but from the sudden feeling that she had crossed into another world. The marble floors gleamed beneath her feet, reflecting light so bright they made her squint. She stood near the entrance, unsure where to put her hands, afraid to touch anything. Daniel Rothman walked ahead of her, his pace calm, controlled. He had returned to the world he ruled. Lena followed like a shadow that didn't belong. Employees stared. Whispers traveled faster than footsteps. A homeless girl in a billionaire's building was a story waiting to explode. They stopped near a seating area. Daniel turned and looked at her carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. Lena, she replied, how old are you? 17. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion, but calculation. He took the wallet from the guard and opened it in front of her. Slowly, deliberately. You know, he said evenly, there was a lot of cash in this. Lena swallowed. Yes, sir. You could have kept it. Yes, sir. He pulled out a stack of bills and counted them silently. Then he stopped. There was more money in here this morning, Daniel said. The room felt suddenly smaller. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs. I didn't take anything, she said quickly, her voice shaking. I swear. Daniel held her gaze. Silence stretched. Employees nearby slowed, pretending not to listen while listening to everything. Daniel leaned back slightly. Are you sure? Yes, Lena said, tears burning her eyes. I was hungry. I was cold. But I didn't take it. Her voice cracked on the last word. For a moment, Daniel said nothing. Then he nodded once. All right, he said. Let's make this simple. He reached into his pocket and pulled out $100 bill. He held it out to her. Lena stared at it. That's more money than she'd seen in months, someone whispered nearby. This is yours if you want it, Daniel said. No conditions. No questions. Her hands trembled. Her body screamed yes. She imagined food, a bed, a hot shower, just one bill, just one time. But something about the way he was watching her felt heavier than hunger. Slowly, Lena shook her head. I didn't bring the wallet back for money, she said softly. I brought it back because it was right. The whisper stopped. Daniel's expression changed, not dramatically, but deeply, like something inside him had been struck. He folded the bill and slipped it back into his pocket. Good, he said. Then he turned to the crowd forming behind them. Bring everyone here, he said calmly. Minutes later, executives, assistants, security, and staff gathered in the open lobby. Phones were subtly raised. Word was spreading. Daniel stood beside Lena. This girl, he announced, found my wallet today. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She had every reason to keep it, he continued. No one would have known. Lena felt her face burn as eyes locked onto her. She returned it anyway. Daniel paused. Now I want to know something, he said, turning to Lena again. If I hadn't had my name in that wallet, what would you have done? Lena thought for a moment. I would have tried to find the owner, she said, no matter who they were. The honesty in her voice cut through the room. Daniel smiled faintly. Then he said something that made everyone gasp. Then why, he asked, did you sleep outside last night? The room froze. Lena's eyes filled with tears. Because being honest, she whispered, doesn't always mean being lucky. A silence fell so heavy it felt sacred. Daniel looked away for a moment. When he turned back, his eyes shone not with pity, but respect. All right, he said quietly. Now comes the part you don't expect. The billionaire's choice. The lobby was silent. Every eye was on Lena. Every whisper had stopped. Even the guards, usually so composed, seemed caught in tension. Daniel Rothman took a deep breath and walked toward her. Lena, he said, his voice calm but powerful, I need to do something that no one else in this building would expect. She looked up at him, confused, afraid. He reached into his coat pocket. The room held his collective breath. From the pocket, he pulled a small envelope. Not money, not a gift card, not a promise. An envelope with her name, written in careful, bold letters. For Lena, new beginning. The crowd murmured again. Inside the envelope were documents, official papers, notarized, stamped with a seal. A small apartment, fully paid for. Furniture, food delivered for a month. A scholarship to a private school for her age. And most importantly, a monthly allowance to ensure she never had to beg again. The words hit Lena like a tidal wave. What is this? She stammered, tears streaming freely now. Daniel smiled gently. This, he said, is what happens when someone chooses honesty over survival. When someone does the right thing, even when no one is watching, they don't just survive. They change the world. Lena shook her head. She couldn't speak. Her chest heaved. She had never imagined such a thing, not in her wildest dreams. The employees in the lobby started whispering among themselves. Some were shocked. Some were inspired. Some were speechless. Daniel turned to them all. "Let this be a lesson," he said, voice echoing in the vast room. "Integrity, courage, and honesty, these are worth more than all the money in the world." Then he looked back at Lena. "You could have walked away," he said softly. "You didn't. And now, the city will know your name for the right reasons." For the first time in her life, Lena felt truly seen, not invisible, not forgotten. She realized something important. Life doesn't always reward us immediately. Sometimes it tests us. Sometimes it puts us through unbearable hunger, endless cold, and crushing loneliness just to see if our hearts remain pure. And if we pass that test, the world opens doors that no one imagined. That evening, Lena walked out of the building with a new coat, dry shoes, and a warmth she had never known. The rain had stopped. The sky glowed with the last light of sunset. For Lena, it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about a future she had earned through honesty, courage, and heart. And somewhere in the city, people who witnessed her courage whispered to each other that sometimes the smallest act can change the largest life. A life forever changed. The next morning, Lena woke up in a small room that smelled of warmth and clean sheets. For the first time in years, she didn't wake to the sound of dripping rain on cardboard, or the roar of cars on a busy street, or the gnawing ache of hunger in her stomach. She stretched her arms and felt the soft mattress beneath her, the pillow beneath her head, and sunlight spilling gently through the window. She had an apartment, a safe place to stay, a place that was hers, not borrowed, not temporary. But more than that, she had something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Daniel Rothman had kept his word. Every need she had, every worry she carried, was now softened. He even arranged for her education, knowing that a girl like Lena needed more than comfort. She needed opportunity. Yet, Lena never forgot the streets that had taught her everything: courage, survival, patience, and the quiet strength of honesty. That day, she walked outside into the city that had once ignored her. She noticed the same shops, the same people rushing past, but something had changed. She had changed. Her heart ached for the faces she had left behind, the other Lenas who slept under bridges and begged for scraps. She knew that life could be unfair. It still was, but now she had the power to make a difference. Weeks passed, and Lena started small. She bought food for the children she remembered from the streets. She donated clothes to shelters. She spoke to volunteers and shared her story with those who would listen. One morning, Daniel appeared at her door. "You're doing well," he said, smiling. "I want to," Lena replied softly. "I want to help them, the ones who are still out there, like I was." Daniel nodded. "That's why I chose you. Not because you were lucky, not because you were desperate, but because your heart proved stronger than circumstances. And a heart like that, it can change everything." They both stood quietly, looking out at the city skyline. Lena realized something profound. The money, the apartment, the scholarship, these were gifts. But the true gift was a lesson she had learned long before she met Daniel. Honesty, courage, and kindness are stronger than desperation, fear, or poverty. From that day on, Lena's life transformed, not just because someone helped her, but because she had made the choice to be good when no one was watching. And the city never forgot her story. News outlets covered it. Social media buzzed. People were inspired by the young girl who returned the billionaire's wallet, who chose integrity over survival. Yet Lena never sought fame. She only sought to help others, to give back what life had taken from her, to light a path for those still wandering in the cold. Life rewards integrity. Life has a quiet way of testing us. It doesn't always hand out rewards immediately, and it certainly doesn't always make the right choice easy. Sometimes, we are faced with situations where temptation is strong, hunger is real, and the world seems to ignore our struggles. In those moments, integrity is not about recognition or reward. It is about choosing to do what is right simply because it is right. It is the courage to act honestly when no one is watching, to hold on to kindness when the world expects selfishness, and to trust that goodness has its own quiet power. Those who act from a pure heart, without expecting anything in return, often discover that life has a mysterious way of returning their virtue. Blessings appear, sometimes immediately, sometimes in ways they could never have imagined. A simple act of honesty, a small gesture of courage, a decision to choose compassion over convenience. These ripple outward, touching others and eventually circling back in the most unexpected and extraordinary ways. Integrity is not a shortcut to success. It is a long, sometimes painful path, but it is a path that leads to true fulfillment, inner peace, and life-changing opportunities. When someone chooses integrity, they align with a force greater than fear, greed, or hardship, a force that transforms not just their life, but the lives of everyone around them. Ultimately, the world may not always notice the quiet heroes, but life never forgets them. The blessings that come to those who act with a pure heart are often far greater than material wealth. They are trust, respect, freedom, and profound knowledge that they stayed true to themselves no matter the cost. In short, when we act rightly, not for reward but because it is right, life has a way of rewarding the purity of our choices, sometimes with the most extraordinary gifts imaginable.